Kaylee, thanks so much. We continue our team coverage tonight on the homeless, some who are scrambling to find a place to stay before the storm. Roxanne Elias is live with how one man found help with just hours to spare. Roxanne?
At 3:07 a.m., the wind off Lake Erie doesn't sound like weather. It sounds like a warning. A plastic tarp snaps like a flag in a storm. A shopping cart rattles across an empty street. Somewhere under an overpass, someone coughs, then goes quiet, because even breathing feels too loud when you're trying not to get noticed. And here's the part most people never think about. In winter, homelessness isn't only about being poor. It's about minutes. Minutes of warmth. Minutes of sleep. Minutes before a security guard shows up. Minutes before your toes go numb. Minutes before a move along becomes the difference between surviving the night and not. Tonight, we're in Ohio, a state people call the heart of America. But when you look closely, you realize the heart can still beat while parts of the body go cold. Because while Ohio builds, renovates, and reinvents, thousands of Ohioans are still trying to get through winter without a door to close behind them. Not as an abstract issue, as a nightly reality. And we're going to tell this story carefully. No graphic imagery, no harassment, no humiliation. We're here to show what's happening in public spaces, what the data says, what service providers see, and what actually helps, without turning human suffering into entertainment. Welcome to U.S. Homeless Secrets. On this channel, we uncover the hidden layers of homelessness across the United States, plainly, respectfully, and with a focus on real-world solutions. Tonight's episode, Ohio Homeless Crisis 2025, frozen tents, street sweeps, and the fight to stay human. And the question guiding everything you're about to hear is simple. How does the heart of America protect public safety and dignity, without treating people who have nowhere to go like they don't belong anywhere? Let's begin where every argument starts, with the numbers. Part 1, Ohio 2025. The numbers are not the whole story. If you only see homelessness through headlines, it can feel like a distant problem. But the United States has been moving in the opposite direction. Federal reporting has shown a sharp rise in homelessness nationally in recent years. 771,480 people counted on a single night in January 2024, according to a Congressional Research Service summary that cites HUD's point-in-time count. That matters for Ohio because Ohio is not an isolated island. When the national housing system strains, rents rise, vacancies shrink, wages lag, states like Ohio feel the pressure fast. And here's the first reality check about homelessness numbers. A point-in-time count is a snapshot, not the full movie. It captures one night. But homelessness is a moving stream. People entering and exiting, families doubled up, people sleeping in cars, people staying 1 week on a friend's couch and the next week in a motel room they can barely afford. So when someone says, it's only one night, remember, one night is still a lot of nights when it's the coldest night of the year. Now zoom into Ohio. Across Ohio's major metros, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, winter homelessness looks different depending on where you are. In some places, it's tents along riverbanks and under freeways. In others, it's cars that never leave a parking lot. In others, it's overcrowded shelters where a single bed is treated like a winning lottery ticket. But everywhere, the same pattern appears. When the system has too few stable exits, housing people can actually afford, then emergency resources become a loop. And loops are expensive, not just financially, emotionally, physically, socially. Because once you're out, everything becomes harder. Keeping your documents safe, keeping medication secure, getting sleep without fear, staying clean enough for work, storing clothes and tools, making it to appointments, rebuilding trust after trauma, and the public sees the visible side of that struggle. A tent, a blanket, a person asleep on a bench. But what you don't see is the invisible math behind it. One missed paycheck, one medical bill, one car repair, one rent increase, one relationship turning unsafe, one job schedule changing. That's how many people fall. Not because they planned it, because life was balanced on a thin line, and the line snapped. Now, here's where the story gets even more complicated. In 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in City of Grants Pass v. Johnson changed what cities may legally enforce regarding public camping bans under the 8th Amendment, shifting the national conversation about enforcement and encampments. That doesn't mean sweeps are the answer. It means the pressure between public space rules and lack of housing is getting sharper across the country. So in Ohio, you're watching something unfold in real time. Cities trying to manage public space, while providers are trying to keep people alive, while people without homes are trying to survive the cold, and everyone is arguing over what should happen next. But to understand the human cost behind these debates, we have to leave the spreadsheet. We have to go to the places where winter has no mercy. Let's start in Cleveland. Part 2, Cleveland Winter, where the river wind makes everything real. Cleveland looks sturdy from a distance. It's built from industry, bridges, neighborhoods with history. But winter doesn't care about history. It cares about exposure. And on cold nights, you can feel the difference between having a home and not having a home with terrifying clarity. Because indoors, winter is a backdrop. Outdoors, winter is a test. Along parts of Cleveland, near river corridors, under freeway lines, behind industrial buildings, people set up where they can. Not because it's comfortable, because it's slightly less dangerous than being completely open. A tent behind a barrier can block wind. A spot under concrete can reduce snow buildup. A location near a 24-hour business can mean a bathroom, a light, a witness. But those advantages come with a cost. You're visible. And in many cities, visibility triggers conflict. A business complains, a resident calls, a cleanup notice arrives, or someone with bad intentions realizes you're alone. So people learn the rules of survival. Keep your gear light enough to move fast. Don't leave your documents where they can be lost. Don't sleep too deeply. Always know your next spot. Keep your shoes dry if you can. Don't start conflict, avoid it. Stay near someone you trust. Don't look like an easy target. And here's what that does to the human nervous system. You can't heal. You can't recover. You can't plan. You can only react. Now imagine you're trying to rebuild your life inside that reality. You're told to get a job. But how do you keep a job if you can't sleep through the night? Your phone dies because there's nowhere to charge it. Your clothes smell like damp cold. Your interview time conflicts with shelter check-in. You lose your ID and can't replace it quickly. You catch a cold that becomes a week of sickness. You're forced to move before your next appointment. That's what homelessness does. It turns simple steps into obstacle courses. And then winter adds weight to every obstacle. The city has options, warming centers, shelters, outreach teams, faith-based groups. And those efforts matter. But every year, the same hard truth returns. If demand rises faster than capacity, then help becomes triage. And triage means someone doesn't get help first. Someone waits. Someone gets told not tonight. Someone ends up back outside. And the public starts to normalize something that should never be normal. People sleeping outdoors in below freezing conditions because there simply aren't enough places to go. Now Cleveland is not alone, because the pressure doesn't stay in one city. It travels. People move to where they think services are. They go to where buses run late, where shelters exist, where they can blend into crowds. So the crisis concentrates. And in Ohio, one of the places it concentrates most visibly is Columbus. And Columbus has something we can point to, something concrete. A 2025 point-in-time count released by the Community Shelter Board. Let's talk about what it shows. Part 3, Columbus 2025, when progress and record high happen at the same time. Columbus is growing. New development, new residents, new jobs. But growth can cast a shadow when housing supply and affordability don't keep up. In May 2025, Columbus Community Shelter Board released results from the 2025 point-in-time count. And the headline is both hopeful and alarming at the same time. They counted 2,556 individuals experiencing homelessness, a 7.4% increase over 2024, an all-time high for the community. But there's another detail that complicates the story. The report also notes that unsheltered homelessness decreased in their count, and points to warming strategies and outreach as factors connected to that directional change. So what does that mean in plain English? It means a community can improve how it brings people indoors, while the overall number of people in crisis can still rise. That's not contradictory. That's what happens when the pipeline into homelessness is stronger than the exits out of it. If more people are being pushed into homelessness by eviction pressure, rent burden, and instability, then even good outreach can't fully compensate. It's like trying to bail water out of a boat while the leak keeps widening. And Columbus Report puts a spotlight on that reality. The problem isn't only what happens on sidewalks. It's what happens before a person ever reaches the sidewalk. Now, what drives people toward shelters or away from them? This matters because online arguments often go like this. Why don't they just go to a shelter? Here's the truth. Shelter can be life-saving. But shelter is not just a bed. Shelter is also curfews, bag limits, partner separation, pet restrictions, safety concerns, trauma triggers in crowded rooms, fear of theft, rules that are hard to follow when you're unwell, barriers for people with disabilities, barriers for people who work late shifts. So when someone chooses the street, it isn't always preference. It can be a calculated risk in a world where every option has a price. And Columbus system is trying to manage a complicated reality, keeping people safe indoors, managing capacity, preventing violence and theft, connecting people to housing, coordinating with health systems, managing public concern, tracking data, sustaining funding. But winter compresses time. When temperatures drop, the margin for error disappears. That's why warming strategies matter. Because even if someone won't enter a full shelter program, a warming center can keep them alive long enough to try again tomorrow. But here's the problem that keeps coming back. If the system can't offer stable exits, real housing people can afford, then the system becomes a revolving door. Now let's zoom out, because Columbus and Cleveland are the visible symbols. But Ohio's crisis isn't only urban. Some of the hardest homelessness in Ohio is the kind you don't see. Let's go to rural Ohio. Part 4, Rural Ohio. The homelessness you don't film because it hides. In big cities, homelessness can become visible. Tents in clusters. People asking for help at intersections. Encampments near transit lines. But in rural areas, homelessness often looks like a vehicle, a minivan, a sedan, a pickup, an old SUV with a blanket taped to the window. And the reason is simple. In small towns, there are fewer services, fewer shelters, fewer places to exist without being noticed. So people hide. They park behind a grocery store, behind a gas station, at the edge of a Walmart lot, near an industrial park, and they follow survival rules that are different from the city. Move before dawn. Don't let your car look abandoned. Keep your trash invisible. Don't attract attention. Don't stay in one place too long. Keep a story ready if someone knocks. Always watch your gas gauge like it's a countdown clock. For families, rural homelessness can be even more invisible, because a parent will do almost anything to avoid the label. So they rotate between relatives. They take a motel room for 2 nights. They sleep in the car for 3. Then they beg for one more couch. Children still go to school. Parents still go to work. Neighbors often don't know, or they suspect, but they don't ask. And the cruelest part is that rural areas often have fewer escape routes. fewer job options, more transportation barriers, longer distances to services, more limited healthcare access, less affordable housing supply in the right places, less capacity to absorb sudden rent spikes. So a person can fall into homelessness without ever becoming visible in the way the public imagines. And because they're less visible, they can be less prioritized, which is why prevention matters so much. Because prevention doesn't only reduce tents, it reduces the slow collapse of families who are still technically indoors, but only by days or weeks. Now, this is where people often argue. Okay, but what's causing it? So let's address the roots clearly, without blame, without excuses, without simplification. Part 5. The root causes in Ohio, housing math system gaps, and the fight over public space. There's a reason homelessness debates explode online. Because everyone is partially right. Residents are right that public space must be safe and usable. Businesses are right that they can't operate in chaos. Workers are right that they deserve safe conditions. And people experiencing homelessness are right that they are still human and still deserve dignity, safety, and a path back. The conflict begins when we try to solve a housing shortage with movement, because movement is not housing. Now let's talk about the housing math that drives the crisis. Ohio's Housing Finance Agency has documented housing needs and affordability pressures statewide, including the reality that many households are cost-burdened and that supply gaps can exist across income levels and regions, problems that amplify eviction risk and instability. When households spend too much of their income on housing, they have less margin for emergencies. And emergencies aren't rare. A car repair, a medical copay, a week of reduced hours, a childcare disruption, a family crisis. One shock, and rent becomes the bill that breaks first. Now layer in a second factor, system complexity. Even when help exists, people often have to navigate forms, wait lists, requirements, documentation, appointments scheduled weeks out. Transportation they may not have, phone access they may lose, email access they may not maintain, identification they may not be able to replace quickly. This is what we call the paper wall. And it's one of the fastest ways a person becomes trapped. Because once you lose ID, you don't just lose a card, you lose access. Now add a third factor, public space enforcement. After the Supreme Court's grants past decision, the national environment around camping bans and enforcement shifted, and cities across the country have been reevaluating what they can enforce and how. But here's what matters on the ground. If enforcement happens without exits, without places people can actually go, then the result is often displacement, not resolution. And displacement creates side effects. Outreach teams can't find people consistently. Medication is lost. Documents disappear. People scatter into less visible, more dangerous locations. Sanitation becomes harder to manage. Small conflicts turn into bigger risks. Recovery becomes less likely. So what does good policy look like? It looks like balance. Rules for shared public space, paired with realistic indoor alternatives, paired with outreach that follows people, paired with prevention that stops the fall, paired with housing pathways that move faster than the crisis. Now let's add a fourth factor, national scale pressure. When homelessness rises nationally, states compete for limited resources. And as federal policy and funding priorities shift over time, local systems can be forced to adapt quickly, sometimes faster than real life can accommodate. We're not here to make this political. We're here to describe a basic truth. When housing is scarce and expensive, and supports are thin, and winter is harsh, the state's heart starts to feel it. Not as a metaphor, as a nightly body count risk. So what actually works? What reduces unsheltered homelessness in a way that protects both public safety and human dignity? That's where we go next. Part 6. What actually works in Ohio? A chain of solutions, not one magic program. There is no single program that solves homelessness, because homelessness is not one single problem. It's a chain, so the response has to be a chain too. Here's what evidence-backed systems aim to build, step by step. 1. Prevention. Stop the fall before it becomes a tent. This is the cheapest and most humane point of intervention. Prevention can include emergency rental assistance, utility support during crisis months, landlord mediation, legal aid for eviction defense, short-term flexible cash support, rapid document replacement support, domestic violence safety planning, and rapid relocation. Every time a family stays housed, the system avoids a far more expensive emergency loop. 2. Stabilization indoors. Sleep before you fix your life. A person who cannot sleep cannot stabilize. Even basic indoor stability helps. Sleep returns. Hygiene becomes possible. Documents can be secured. Medication becomes manageable. Appointments become realistic. Trauma can begin to calm. This is why warming centers, non-congregate options, and safer shelter models matter. Columbus Pit results show that changes in outreach and warming strategies can be associated with improvements in unsheltered trends, even when overall homelessness rises. That's not mission accomplished. That's proof that specific tools can reduce the deadliest exposure. 3. Shelter design that reduces harm. Shelter works better when it includes secure storage, trauma-informed operations, conflict reduction layouts, staff support that is not overwhelmed, clear pathways into housing, flexibility for workers, couples, and pets where possible. Because when shelter feels unsafe, people avoid it. And when people avoid it, unsheltered homelessness rises. 4. Housing pathways that move at the speed of real life. When housing takes too long, people lose hope. The most effective systems reduce time to housing. Rapid housing, supportive housing for people with high needs, coordinated entry that is consistent and transparent, landlord partnerships and incentives, housing navigation that is hands-on, not just here's a list. 5. Health, mental health, and recovery, without forcing a perfect person first. People in crisis often need support before they can comply with complex rules. That's why systems increasingly focus on mobile health outreach, street medicine, crisis response teams, and low-barrier behavioral health access. Harm reduction approaches that reduce death and disease. This is not about excusing harm. It's about reducing it. 6. Public space management with humanity and coordination. A city can protect public space without destroying a person's last chance to recover. That looks like scheduled cleanups with clear communication, storage options for vital belongings, trash removal and sanitation support, hand washing and restroom access, sharps disposal where needed, de-escalation, not humiliation, outreach presence during enforcement actions, real indoor exits offered first. Because again, movement is not housing, but movement paired with real exits can be part of public order. Now, if you're watching and thinking, what can I do without making things worse? Here are safe, practical steps that actually help. Support credible local organizations doing outreach, shelter operations, domestic violence services, and rehousing. Donate requested items through organizations, socks, hygiene kits, thermal gear, not random drop-offs that can create conflict. Learn local resources, 211 in many areas, so you can point someone to help without guessing. Advocate for solutions that reduce unsheltered homelessness, not just hide it. Use respectful language, because language becomes policy faster than people realize. If you see someone in danger from extreme cold, call local emergency lines or the city's non-emergency line. Don't attempt risky interventions alone. And now we're ready for the last part. Because when the camera turns off, winter doesn't. Outro, Ohio SNTA Adlini. It's a test of who we are. When this video ends, the cold will still be there. A person will still be deciding whether to sleep under an overpass or in a doorway. A worker will still be counting dollars in their head, trying to stretch rent through the month. A family will still be turning a car into a bedroom, whispering to kids that it's just temporary. And a shelter staff member will still be looking at a full list, wishing they had more beds, more rooms, more exits that lead somewhere real. Ohio is not somewhere else. Ohio is the heart, and the heart tells the truth. A place can't call itself strong if it leaves thousands of neighbors exposed to winter as if that's normal. So here's the question I want you to sit with tonight. Do we build communities where one bad month destroys a life? Or communities where people can recover? If you want to do something right now, something real, without turning this into a political war, support prevention and housing solutions in your area. Support the workers and nonprofits doing outreach and shelter operations. Push for policies that create indoor exits, not just outdoor movement. Refuse dehumanization. In comments, in conversations, in real life. And now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what does your community need most right now? More housing, stronger prevention, more mental health access, safer shelter, or better public space management that protects dignity? Keep it respectful. Keep it human. This is U.S. Homeless Secrets. Thank you for watching. And remember, the next story is already unfolding tonight, under the same winter sky.